What's going on, guys? Taxation is theft. And I just wrapped up an awesome show. This guy is, man, he's going the extra mile to fight for constitutional rights for everybody for possession of cannabis. Really an amazing story, an amazing guy. I wish him the best of luck. He's fighting cannabis charges on the constitutional level so that nobody has to go through this shit again. But now, while I was doing that, somebody was in the comments asking for a video on driving without a license. So that's what I'm making right now, and it's dark because I'm actually driving right now. I don't know if you can see that or anything. I don't know. Driving without a license. So, here's the deal. It's a free country. There's absolutely no way that they can require you to have a license to use a car to get from point A to point B. They cannot. There's no constitutional authority for them to do that. However, there is a constitutional authority for them to regulate commerce, which I don't agree with, but at least that's the law. So we're going to talk about the law, not which laws I don't agree with. So, the law, the Constitution, does not give the government the authority to tell you that you can't use a car. In fact, it has lots of protections of rights, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and all these other things that courts have ruled includes using a car on public roads is a right, not a privilege, a right. Now, they tell you driving is a privilege, not a right. That is true only because driving does not mean what you think it means. I am not driving right now. I am in a car. The car is turned on. I am holding the steering wheel. My foot is on the gas. I am not driving. I'm not operating a motor vehicle. These are specific words with a very specific meaning. Picture this. You're standing next to a girl. You can call her a girlfriend. You can call her a wife. But that doesn't mean she is. Right? What's the relationship there? It's the same thing as the relationship between you and a car. Now, while you have been tricked into thinking that your car is your motor vehicle, it is not. A motor vehicle is a piece of transportation that's used to transport things, which is a term used for commercial transportation, commercially moving things from point A to point B for hire. It can be a truck moving goods. It can be a truck with a crane, I guess. A rental, I don't know. A taxi. This is commerce. This is what they have legal authority to regulate, even though I don't agree with that. So they rightfully tell you that you cannot drive without a license. You cannot engage in commerce without a license, is what they're telling you. But they know you don't understand this, and they happily keep you willfully ignorant. I guess not willfully. They happily keep you ignorant to their benefit. So, how do you drive without a license? You don't. You can use your car without a license. Now, here's the thing, and we actually talked about this on the show today, about police stopping you because they have no right to stop you, right? And we see these stop and frisk laws all the time. I think some of them were ruled unconstitutional. It's bullshit. It's an illegal search. And they say, oh, it's for officer safety, just to make sure you're not armed. Even if you were armed, that doesn't matter because you have a constitutionally protected right to be armed. So, stop and frisk to make sure somebody doesn't have a weapon is unconstitutional. Now, one of the things we talked about was they can't just stop any car, right? They can't stop you and hold you against your will, because they can only do that if you have, one, committed a crime, which turning without a blinker, failing to come to a complete stop, and all these other things are not crimes. They are violations of the terms of the driver's license contract. If you don't have a driver's license, you cannot be found in violation of those. You can, if it's not a crime, an actual crime, you cannot be charged with a crime. This is why you don't go to criminal court for traffic infractions. You go to a bullshit traffic court, which is basically just like a Judge Judy arbitration court. The judge has no legal authority. It's all smoke and mirrors. They can assume, if they see your car with a license plate on it, that you have a contract, and therefore they can stop you. Or at the very least, maybe not that the person sitting behind the wheel has a contract, but that the car is in fact a motor vehicle, because it has a motor vehicle plate. They assume it's a motor vehicle, they ask you to stop. If you don't have a plate and they ask you to stop, what legal authority do they have? They have to be accusing you of a crime in order to stop you, which they don't. Now, this happens all the time. I've driven without license plates. I've gotten stopped. They ask me a million questions. Usually they let me go. You have to know how to answer the questions. I don't want to recommend anybody do this, because it's one of those completely at your own risk things. Because the cops, one, they don't know and understand the law. They didn't go to law school. All they're taught is procedure. All they're taught is, you see a car without a license plate, you pull them over, you give them a ticket. If they don't show up to court, you give them a warrant. If you stop them again, you arrest them. That's all they're taught, procedure. And if you don't object to this procedure in the right way, and if you don't strike down every attack that they have against you, you could go to jail. You could end up with a warrant. You could get your car confiscated. You could go to jail. This is why I don't recommend people do this. If you want to do it, it's at your own risk. I'm happy to have conversations with you about it, but don't blame me for giving you bad information. Don't blame me and expect that I'm going to cover your legal expenses, or I'm going to come out to save you, or anything like that. It's a risky business. But I'm out here spreading this information because people need to know. And as enough people know, then we can start to fight this on a level that's just totally different. I mean, for example, not that I'm telling anybody to do this, what if enough people knew and they started going around taking all the license plates off of all the cars? What would happen if you got stopped without a license plate? Could you just say, well, so you know, officer, you know someone's been going around the neighborhood stealing all the license plates. Why are you stopping me? Why aren't you stopping somebody else? I already went to the DMV, or I'm on my way to the DMV now. It just happened this morning, and I'm going to order new plates. What are they going to do? Unless they catch you taking your own plates off. But, and I'm not telling anybody to do that. I'm just saying, if enough people wanted to do something like that, that would be pretty awesome. But that's not going to happen until enough people understand what system we actually have, what system we actually live in. Getting rid of your driver's license. You don't need a driver's license because you're not driving. People don't understand that when you sign for your driver's license, you are waiving constitutional rights. And this was part of the conversation we had on the podcast today. They cannot force you to surrender your rights. That's absolutely true. But their defense is that nobody forced you to get a driver's license. You did so because you believed you were going to be driving commercially. You believe you were given false information. You were lied to by the government. And of course, they'll claim innocence. Well, I'm just telling you the law the way I understand it. And the people who wrote it, and some other people, know that that's not how it works. I mean, don't think this is a grand conspiracy. Don't think that everybody in the government understands how this works. Most of them believe misinformation just as much as the public. There's a lot of people who understand this who are in the public. There's a lot of people who understand this who work in the government, but there are so many people who just don't get it. So it's not like every single cop that stops you and tells you need a license is part of some big conspiracy. And, oh, that sounds like you're talking about an elite handful of people. That sounds like a conspiracy. Well, not really. I mean, just all you got to do is look at how complicated the law is. Why is the law so complicated? I mean, shit, you want to talk about that? Lawyers. What percentage of the population are lawyers? Only lawyers understand some of these laws because they're extremely complicated. Does that mean there's a conspiracy among lawyers? No. It just means that there's a very small percentage of the people who understand all these rules and all these laws and how they're total bullshit. So, I don't know what else to say, guys. I know I've talked about this a million times. There's so many different little facets to this. It really is a brilliant plan that they have. It wasn't all come up with by one person. I mean, you've got the way that the driver's license works, the way that they trick you into signing those contracts is just as sneaky as how they make you sign the contracts for the income tax. Oh. All right, someone's trying to join. Let's see if this works.
Hey Dan, what's going on?
Yo, what's the word?
Hey, I was just wondering, are you talking about like sovereign citizens and the like of that?
No, well, there is a lot of overlap, and that's actually how I got into some of this stuff.
Right.
Like, when I started reading about them, the first thing I wanted to do was create a documentary to, like, find out how much of this stuff was true. And this is like the Patriot mythology that, and my guest on the show today, I'm always respectful of my guests, but I had some disagreements with him on some of that stuff, and I pointed out that some of that was kind of Patriot mythology that he was talking about. But, there is a lot of truth to that stuff. Like, I don't believe that, like, oh, the Federal Reserve has a copy of my birth certificate and I can write checks on that. Like, that's bullshit. But
Oh, you don't believe in lawful money then?
I don't believe that we have. No, I don't believe that we have lawful money.
Oh, okay. It works. It works for some people. That's why a lot of them are like, "Oh, taxation is not theft; it's voluntary. Those taxation and theft guys are stupid." It's like, oh, well, that's an interesting point. I don't know.
Well, yeah, and that is a contradiction, and I realize I say that all the time. If the tax itself is optional, then it's not theft. But I would argue that, if you walked into a bank with a note that said, put all the money in a bag, and you had your rifle over your shoulder because you support the Second Amendment, and the teller put all the money, and, like, you never said, put it in there or I'm going to kill you. You just said, put it in there, and then you were like, oh, hey, they're giving me free money, and you turn around and walk away. You technically didn't rob the bank, you could argue, because you never made any actual threat, but the implied threat is a coercive force, whereas, and that's kind of how the IRS operates, except theirs is a little bit more fraudulent when they're also giving you fraudulent information. But all of the fraudulent information is, contributes to them being able to coerce you into signing documents that you shouldn't be signing under false pretenses, and that's how they take your money. So
arguably, I don't know. It's a gray area to me, I would say.
Yeah. Same here. I'd
But
certainly like to try it out sometime. I don't know if it works or not.
so yeah, I mean, and I've heard of people going to prison for writing bad checks over that lawful money thing, but it's yeah, that's something I'm not willing to try.
I know, I'm iffy about it. It sounds damn nice though, not having to pay all them income tax, but prison don't sound nice.
Well, we're talking about two separate things, right? I mean, you're talking about the thing where like you can write whatever checks you want, and banks are supposed to honor them because it's what do they say? I don't know. It's a bank draft, and they have to honor it, and blah blah blah, and because of your birth certificate and all that stuff. That's totally separate from.
I was
the
referring to the income tax lawful money one, where it's you write pursuant to code something or other, and your check at the end of the year when you go to pay your taxes, and then they give you check back with all your money. I was talking about that one, like.
Oh, you're like a 100% refund?
Yeah.
I don't know too much about that. What I do know is, okay, so here's the thing. The IRS collects money through the withholding system, right? Now, you can claim exempt, at which point they'll, your employer will stop, or excuse me, your boss, we don't use the word employer, your boss will stop withholding your money and giving it to the IRS. But in any event, at the end of the year, when you file, if you tell them that the money that you earned was not taxable income, then you end up with, and I don't want to give this advice because I know a lot of people have had some legal trouble over filing zero returns, but essentially what you say is this was not taxable income, and your balance comes out to zero, and even if anything was withheld, they're supposed to give you a refund to that amount. Now, one of the problems a lot of people do with this is they try to fill out a zero when the IRS has like a W-2 form or a 1099 that says you have some amount of money, and they never refute those amounts, which is a big part of that. You have to actually refute, and I guess the IRS even has a form for disputing the amount on a W-2, and there's another process they have for a 1099, and you actually have to say, yes, I understand that my boss reported, X amount on a W-2, but that's actually the wrong amount. He actually gave me $0 in taxable income, and then you're supposed to fill out the rest of your return based on that. And I have heard of people getting tremendous amount of money back from the government doing that. But like I said, that's don't do that based on this 5 minutes that I just explained. That you got to really do your research and know what the hell you're doing. Because and that's the thing with the IRS. I mean, like it's just like the driver's license thing. If you know what you're doing, you know how to object, you know that your money's not taxable, you know that you're not engaged in business with the federal government, you don't have to pay any of these taxes. But at the same time, they know that there are a lot of people out there who are not willing to do their due diligence and really understand, or maybe they just don't have the mental capacity to understand it, because it is really complicated. It took me a long time. I think I'm pretty smart, and it took me a really long time to figure it out, with a lot of guidance from people who have done all the research. It's not easy, and they know that, and they'll test you. And if you forget to check one box, they will totally fuck you. So it's dangerous. But we're dealing with a criminal organization, as Irwin Schiff called it, the federal mafia. And all right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. Taxation is theft. And
appreciate the chat.
See you.
Dan.
Yeah, you too, man. Thanks for the questions. I'll catch you later.